Hi, in this tutorial we are going to develop 3 projects with jQuery. I know that most people like to learn things by doing practical things, and in this video I decided to make some small projects so that you may learn jQuery by doing small projects. So let's see what are those 3 projects that we are going to develop in this tutorial. You can see that there is a menu that we are going to develop. Start from the HTML and CSS, and with jQuery we will make it more generic. Like you can see that on desktop this menu will look like this, and when we see the same menu on small device having small widths like mobile device, this menu will look like this. It will convert it to the drop down, and from the drop down we can change the menus. Alright, so this is the first project that we are going to develop. Next thing that we are going to develop is the password confirmation. You can see that the password length should be 7, and it will show a pop-up message that you need to enter 7 characters at least in order to start with it. And next thing we are going to do is to confirm password, that if the password and confirm password are matches, then don't show any dialog box, any error message. If they are same, then if they are different, then show the error message. Alright, so this is the second project that we are going to develop. The third one is this one. This is the image gallery. At the back side you can see, and when we click on any image it will show a pop-up image with the larger size, and it will show a cross button on the top right corner that we need to press in order to close that bigger image. In this tutorial I will show you how to create a dynamic menu with the help of jQuery. So as you can see on my screen, I have this menu. We can navigate to different pages, and when the size of our screen gets smaller, the main menu will be changed into drop down. So you can see that I have changed the size of my browser and the menu has been changed, and as I increase the width of my browser again, the menu gets back to its original state. When it gets smaller, we can also navigate to different pages. So this is all I will do with the help of jQuery. So let's get started. I'm using WebStorm as my IDE, but you can use other text editors like Notepad++, Sublime Text. So you can see that I have created this default project. You can create from going to File, New Project, and create an empty project in your specific directory. So first what we need to do, we need to create the user interface. This user interface for our web application. So let's do it. I will not explain the HTML and CSS because I would be hoping that you already know HTML CSS to see me and understand it by your own. Okay, so let's create 4 HTML files. First one is the home index file, about file, contact, and the last one, events. Alright, in this file come to the body tag and add a div tag inside it, and add an ID to this div tag, and I would say a main menu. I will be creating these IDs in my CSS later on. Okay, so now we need to create a main menu, so we need to create a list, unordered list. Alright, and then create 4 list items. Inside this list item we need to create an anchor tag for creating a hyperlink. Okay, so href equals to index.html. okay, and inside it add a text home. Now I will duplicate this thing 3 more times and change it to about, contact, and events. Alright, and change its text as well. So about, contact,
events. Alright, and we need to add an ID, a class though to it, because if it is selected, then its background should be white. As you can see that it is selected, this background should be white and its text color should be black. Okay, so let's add a class to it as selected. Alright, now outside this div tag, let's create a paragraph tag that would be, say, home page. Alright, so let's remove it. I haven't added any CSS file right now or any JavaScript file, but in my HTML files I am including all those files before writing those files, because we don't want to come back to our HTML files again. So just do it what I'm doing. Rel style sheet href, and it would be style.css and type would be text CSS. Alright, and I'm going to add a reference to my Jquery file. Okay, so what is the script? Source would be, I would add an online source for the Jquery, so code.jquery.com/jquery-1.11.0.main.js. Okay, so type would be JavaScript because it's a JavaScript library. And after including Jquery file, I would add my Jquery file in which I will be writing my code. Alright, so that would be app.js and type would be JavaScript. So I have written all these things before writing actual code of JavaScript and CSS, because I need to copy and paste the same code in other 3 files as well, so that we may not be adding separately in each file. So let's copy it and paste it. Okay, so this class should be added to this list item because we will be on about tag. Okay, so it would be about. Alright, so I think everything is okay. So now go to contact and paste. Okay, we need to copy it first and we need to paste it right here, and we need to replace this with here. Okay, and change it to contact. Okay, so it's really fine, and let's copy it and paste it in here. Okay, and then cut this class and paste it and change its name to events. Alright, now let's see. Okay, so we have this list items with no style sheet. Now we need to write style sheet as fast as we can. So let's go and add a CSS file in it. That would be style. Alright, so let's do it. Body would be background equals to left. Font family should be sans serif. Margin should be 0. Okay, and now let's add styles to our main menu ID. Okay, so main menu, it should have a background of green color. Okay, so it has to be green, and height should be 40 pixels, text align center. Now let's add a style to our paragraph. This one, it will not be too much, but the size of font size equals to 40 pixels. Let's add color to it. Color has to be black, so it would be 00, and we should bring it to the center of our page. So text align center. Okay, so now let's add style to UL. We need to remove those bullet points, so we need to set the list style to none. Okay, so list style to none. Now add a style to the actual list item. Display should be inline block. Okay, and the width of each list item should be 80 pixels and text align center. Okay, now let's add style to our anchor tag inside list item. Okay, so it will have a color of white. Okay, color has to be white, width has to be 100, line height should be 40 pixels, and text decoration should be none. Alright, so now let's add style to our each list item, and we need to assign this class. Okay, so let's say inside UL element we have li tag, and li tag will be having the selected class. What it will do, it will be having a background color of white, so it should be white. So 0 0, no, it should be triple F. Alright, now we need to change the color of our actual text, because it is actually white, and we need to change the color to black if it is selected. Okay, so UL selected class, and inside the selected class we have A, and we need to change its color to black. Alright, so I think we are done with it. So now let's see if we have the actual style now. Okay, so we are done with it, and we have everything working fine. But now if we decrease the screen size, it will not work what we want it to work. Okay, so now let's go and write some jQuery. Okay, so let's add a JavaScript and name it as app. Okay, we have already included the jQuery file right here after including the jQuery file from online, because it has to be before our file, because our code will not work if we include the online jQuery library after our file. Okay, so let's think of it that what we want to do. We want to change this inner HTML into a drop down. So in HTML we have a select tag, and inside the select tag we have option tag. So we need to remove or hide these elements and replace it with the select tag having the option tags inside that select tag. So we will dynamically create those HTML elements and replace these elements with that code. Alright, we can also do it with the JavaScript, but it's a lot easier to create dynamic HTML elements with the help of jQuery. Alright, so first I will create a dynamic select element. In order to create that element, we can do it with our select. This is the variable name. It's not required to use this $, but it is a recommended way that if we create a dynamic HTML as a value to assign to variable, then we must use this $, before the variable name, because it should be understood to new coders. Okay, so in order to create it, we need to assign with a $, again, and inside the double quotes we will create select elements. Okay, so we have created this select element. Alright, now we need to append that select element to this div tag, inside this div tag. Alright, so to append this, we can do is we first need to select that div element, and in order to select that div element, we need to select it with the help of ID that is assigned to this element. In order to select it, we can use hashtag and name of that ID. Okay, we have selected that, and inside this element we need to append our select tag. Alright, so we have appended our select element. Now what we need to do, we need to create this much option tags and append those option tags inside this select element. Alright, now how do we know that how many items we should create? We will iterate all the list items, and we will create the option tags as much as these list items. So these are four list items, so 4 option items will be created. Alright, so first we need to iterate through all these list items. Okay, so how we can iterate through? We can iterate it with the selector function. Okay, so first we need to select main menu and the anchor tag. It shows that inside this element we have an anchor tag, and iterate until you end up all the anchor tags inside this element. Alright, if there are 4 anchor tags, then it will iterate 4 times. So each function will receive a function as a parameter, and inside it we can write our code to create our option elements. Alright, so now let's do it. First, again, as we created our select element, we need to create our option element. Okay, so as a standard way of creating it, we need to use $, and option variable, and equals to $. Inside double quotes we can create option element. Alright, now we need to set its value, that what should be the value of option. Its value should be the value of this attribute of this anchor tag, because as our screen gets larger, if we click any of our tab, it navigates to that page. Now if screen is smaller, then if we click any of the option from the drop down, it should navigate to that page on which we have clicked. So we need to set the value of this option tag to the attribute of this anchor tag. Okay, so for assigning the value, we have a function built in jQuery function called value. So option dot value, actually it's a val, and we need to get the value of this attribute. In order to get it, first we need to select this tag. Alright, so now there are more than one anchor tags. Alright, and each of them have different values. If we select it directly with a tag, how do we know that which value of this attribute should be assigned to this option value? So what we can do is we can use this keyword. It will refer to the current anchor tag on which this loop is iterating. Alright, so to get the attribute of value href, we can use attr, and of which attribute we want to get the value. We want to get the value of href. Alright, so we have got the value, and now we need to set the text of it. Like the value we have set will be because of, if we click on it, and the text would be the shown value. Okay, so now we need to set its text. So option dot text would be the value of current anchor tag, the inner HTML. Okay, so for that we can do it with this dot text. Alright, now we have assigned its value, we have assigned its text, we have created an option. Now what we are left with, we have to assign this class. Alright, so we need to detect that we are iterating with the help of anchor tag. Now we will check if the parent of this anchor tag, that is li, contains the class selected. If any of the anchor tag contains the class selected, then set the property of option tag to this. Okay, so let's check it. If this dot parent dot has class selected, then we can assign that attribute to our option tag. Okay, so option dot property has to be selected and it has to be true. Okay, so we are done with it. We have a select element that is appended to main menu, and we have option tag that we have filled it with our text and values and assigned a class to it. And now we need to append this option tag to this select element. Alright, so select dot append option. Alright, so we are done with it. Alright, so now if you think a bit that we have created these elements, now how will we detect if the size of our browser is increased or decreased? This code will not detect that. We need to detect it with the CSS code called media queries. So let's do it. So let's come here, and at the top, if you already know how to use media queries, it's good. If you don't know, then even I'm going to explain you. Alright, so media queries are used to detect the screen size, that if our web page is working on a wide screen or a landscape screen, according to that check we can disable or enable different properties and its values. Alright, so for using media queries we can use the keyword media, and then we can detect the min width equals to 200. Alright, and max width equals to 500. Okay, so I'm checking this if our web page is working, is running on mobile phones or a tablet, means on a smaller screen. So now what we need to do, we need to disable this tag. Alright, so in order to disable that tag, we can select that tag first, main menu, UL, and display has to be none. Alright, we need to add the colon inside it, and in order to detect if our web page is running on a wide screen like on desktop, we need to add another media query check. Alright, that has to be add sign, so media, that would be min width should be 500. Alright, this code will work if the width of screen is greater than 500. So we disabled the view of UL in case of mobile screen size, and now here we need to disable the select tag that we have created dynamically in case of desktop. Okay, so let's select that and display none. Alright, so now we are done with it. Now let's go and check it out. So it's working now. So you can see that my screen gets smaller and my list elements are converted into the drop down. Alright, but we are not navigating from one page to another page in our drop down. We need to check the click event on it. Alright, so before doing that, let's go and set its style first. As you can see that it's not looking really good. We need to bring it at the center and increase its width, and in greater screen we need to bring that back to the top. There is a space, white space above this UL tag. Okay, so let's do it. In here we need to select width. If the UL is disabled, then it means that the select is enabled. Okay, so if select is enabled, then increase its width to 90%, and margin top should be 10 pixels. Alright, if the select is disabled, then we need to set the property values of UL tag, means UL tag will be visible if select is disabled. Alright, so main menu, okay, UL. So in here we can say that top should be 0 because there is a space at the top of our tab. Okay, margin top should be 0. Alright, so let's go and check it. So you can see that our space has been removed. Now let's make the screen size a bit smaller. So you can see that it has been at the center and the width has been increased, so it's looking really good. Alright, now we need to add a click event in order to navigate to our different pages. To add a click event, we don't need to do much. It's just the few lines of code, in fact 2 lines of code. So let's come here and Inside jQuery we have different events like on-click event or key up event. So inside this tag we have an option called change. If the value of select element is changed, then according to that we can navigate to other pages. Alright, so first we need to select this item. Okay, so okay, no, we need to select it. Select dot change. Alright, this is detecting if the value of select element means that if the options, different options has been selected. Alright, and it will receive a function. Inside that function we need to write our code that after selection what we need to do, we need to navigate to that specific page. Alright, so select has a built-in function called value. In order to get the selected value means that dot value. Alright, so it will return the current value of select, that which option has been selected, but we need to assign the value of this function, this piece of code, to the JavaScript function called window location. Alright, so now let's see if it works. So it's working in here. Now let's change its size. So you can see that the contact is being selected and the contact page is being shown. Now let's home page. So it's working really fine. We can navigate to different pages. Alright, so I think this is enough and this is all for this part. So I hope that you have liked it. If you have any question, just comment below. I will answer your questions. In this tutorial, I'm going to develop an amazing thing inside jQuery. As you can see on my screen, I have this image gallery contain 5 images. Now what I'm gonna do is, when I will click any of these images, it will show a pop-up image. Alright, it will show an overlay. An overlay contains an image, and this overlay contains this cross button. In order to close this pop-up image, I have to click on this cross button. You can see that it has been closed. If I open another image, I can close it as well. So I hope that you are gonna learn a lot in this tutorial. So let's start. The IDE I'm using is WebStorm. You can use any other IDEs as well, or a simple text editor. So what I have right now, I have this project that I have just created, an empty project, and inside this project I have these images that I'm gonna show inside my image gallery, and I have this close image button that you have seen at the top right corner. Alright, and in other than this folder, I have this index file, contains nothing, just the default tags and a reference to my style sheet. Alright, this is the style sheet that I have just created. It is empty. Alright, and I have another script file. This is the script file, and I have included the jQuery reference here, and after including the jQuery reference, I have included the reference of my actual jQuery file. Alright, in which I'm gonna write code. Alright, so let's first write the HTML to make the user interface. Alright, so first we need to add a heading, and it should be image gallery. Alright, and under this heading we need to create an unordered list that will contain images. First let's give it an ID of image gallery. Alright, and inside it let's create list items. Alright, and inside list item we need to add an anchor tag in order to enable click event onto that list item. So this will be an anchor tag, and it will contain images / crocodile JPEG. Alright, and inside this anchor tag we need to add an image tag. Alright, it will receive the same value. Alright, now we have these 5 images. We need to create 5 list items. So let's copy it and paste it 5 times. and change its values. It should be the fox. It should be the fox again, and it should be the horse. And rhino. Let's copy it, paste it, and it should be the tiger. Alright. So we are done with our user interface. Now we need to write our CSS to style it a bit. Before moving to the CSS, let's see if we are looking different images on the screen. So let's run it. So you can see that we are seeing different images and a heading image gallery. Now let's write some CSS in order to style it as I showed you at the start of my video. Okay, so let's go and write it. First I will add the body tag to create the background, and background should be, let's make it black, and then after that change it to this. Okay, and the default font size for the whole HTML file. Okay, so let's add sans serif. After that, let's style our heading, and it should be white. So F will work fine. Text align should be the center. Alright, an unordered list, it should be the list style, has to be none. Margin has to be 0, and auto as well to bring these to center. Alright, and after that we have the padding has to be 0, display has to be block, and max width has to be, let's make it 780 pixels. Alright, you can set these values according to your screen size. I'm doing it with my own screen size. Alright, so text align center. Now let's add some styles to our list item. So its padding would be the 5 pixels, background color has to be white, margin has to be 5 pixels, and display has to be inline block. Alright, so now let's go and add some style to our image inside our anchor tag. So its display would be the block, width has to be 130 pixels, and height has to be 100 pixels. And anchor tag, we don't want anything because we have an image inside it, so text decoration should be none. So we have added our style to our HTML. Now let's see if we have actual user interface. So you can see that we have actual user interface. Now what if I click any of these images? It will take me to the new URL. Alright, this was the default behavior in old days. Nowadays people like to see something more attractive. That's why we're gonna make image pop up rather than navigating to the new URL. Alright, so now let's go and write our jQuery code. Make sure you have included these files in your HTML. Okay, so let's go and write code. If you have already have experience with jQuery, it's good for you to watch this tutorial. If you don't know jQuery, then I will try to explain each and everything that what I'm going to do. So you can see that we have these elements. In order to create our pop-up, image pop-up, we need to create dynamic HTML elements with the help of our jQuery. We can also create it with JavaScript or any other JavaScript library like jQuery. So in order to create dynamic HTML at runtime, with the help of jQuery, we need to use some syntax, JavaScript or jQuery syntax. So first I will create an overlay element that can be anything, that can be div, span. In here I'm gonna make a div element as my blackish overlay. So this is my actual project. So if I click on it, you can see that this is the blackish area that has opacity of 50%. So this is the overlay. I'm gonna give it a tag name of div. Alright, so first we need to create a variable overlay. Alright, the variable should start with a $sign. It is a recommended practice, but it is not necessary that whenever we create dynamic elements with the help of JavaScript or jQuery, we need to assign that element to a variable that starts with that $sign. Alright, so in order to create an HTML element, we need to start with $sign, and inside these brackets we can write our HTML element. So that has to be div and give it an ID of overlay. Alright, it should end this thing. Alright, it should have an ending div tag as well. So make sure that you have double quotes right here and single quotes right here. If you use single quote here, then you should use double quotes for the value of ID. Okay, don't mix that up. So now we need to show this overlay inside our body tag. In order to embed this element inside our body tag, we need to use a built-in function called append to append this overlay inside this body tag. Alright, so now we need to select our body tag. In order to select it, we need to write $sign, and then inside this quotes we have selected. Now we can call a function append. Okay, and in here we can write our variable name. We have not shown anything, but we are just appending at the back end of our HTML. Alright, we will show this overlay on the click event of any image. Alright, so now we need to create our image element to append that element inside this overlay, because an overlay contains this image. We need to create it with the help of jQuery as well. So now let's add a variable called image, and as overlay we can create this image element like this. Alright, this element doesn't contain an ending tag, so it's pretty fine. Now we need to append this image. It should start with a $sign. Okay, we need to append this image element to this overlay. Alright, so now overlay dot append, it should contain an image. Alright, now we need to create another image element for this cross button. This is actually an image. Alright, not a button. So let's create that. It should be the close and then $sign and then image tag, and give it an ID with the single quotes because we have used double quotes outside. So close image, and well, let's close this tag here. So we have created this image. Again we need to append this image element inside this overlay. So you have analyzed the layout, the structure. The body contains this overlay, and overlay contains this image and this image. Alright, so overlay dot append, it has to be close. Now we have created our elements. Now we need to show these elements when we click any of those images. Alright, so in order to detect click event, we can use a click function inside jQuery. First we need to detect that individual list items are clicked, but not this whole body or anywhere. Alright, so in order to select individual list item, what we can do is not the list item but individual anchor tags inside these list items. We can select, first we can select this UL tag. Alright, so in order to select this UL tag, we can directly select it with this UL or from then ID image gallery. So we have selected this. Now we need to select anchor tag inside this image gallery. Alright, and if any of the anchor tag inside this image gallery is clicked, alright, so now what we will do if this clicked? First we need to disable the default functionality of anchor tag. The default functionality of anchor tag is it takes us to this URL. Alright, it opens up a new file, a new URL, and show that image in the new file. We need to disable that functionality in order to open our pop-up. So in order to disable that functionality, we need to select an event attribute. We are not sending anything, but this is the built-in event keyword. Alright, so event keyword will contain prevent default. It will disable that default functionality of taking us to a new file and change the URL. Now we need to add an image inside this image tag. Right now this image tag contains nothing, it is empty. Okay, you can see that this is the image. It should contain that image on which we have clicked that from that image gallery. Alright, so how we can assign an image to this element? We can assign a value to this element while getting the value from this tag, because this anchor tag will be clicked and we can get the value from the clicked attribute. Okay, so first let's get the image source, and in order to detect that which of these anchor tags was clicked, we can't add check to individual anchor tags. We can use this keyword in order to detect that which list item was clicked, and in order to get the value of href attribute, we can use this function and then href. Alright, so this variable is containing this value. Alright, if this anchor tag is clicked, if this anchor tag is clicked, then this variable will contain this value. Alright, so now let's assign this value to this image tag. Now let's go and add that value. So image dot attribute, alright, it has to be source and then image source. So we have assigned this value to the attribute source of this element. Okay, now we need to assign this close image to this attribute. So let's add close. We can directly assign its value because right now our HTML doesn't contain value of this close tag. Okay, so we can use images close dot png. Alright, after that we can show our overlay. So overlay dot show. Okay, it will not look really good because we haven't added styles for these elements inside our CSS. That we're gonna do after checking it if it's working fine or not. So let's go to HTML and run it. I'm gonna click any of these events. So you can see that both of these images are being shown. Actually these are not looking pretty cool. Now let's go and write some CSS for these elements. So now let's come here and write some CSS. So first select that overlay ID, okay, and set its background. We need to set its opacity as well, so we can't directly write color name. We can do it RGB, A for alpha, and red is 0, green is 0, blue is 0, and opacity is 5. Okay, now we need to set its position. That has to be absolute. Okay, and top has to be 0, left has to be 0, display none, text align center, and width has to be 100%, height has to be 100%, and padding top would be 5%. Alright, we have set the CSS for our overlay. We need to set the CSS now for this image and this close button. Alright, so let's come here and select image inside that overlay. So its width would be 500. You can set the width and height according to your screen. I'm setting it according to my screen. So border has to be 10 pixels, solid, and black. It's white actually. So now we need to write some CSS for this close button. Alright, so let's go and select that close button first. So overlay, inside that overlay we have that close image, and its width would be 40 pixels, height would be 40 pixels again, its border would be 0 pixels, position absolute, top 5 pixels, right 5 pixels, and z index would be 1. Alright, so I think we are done with it. Now let's see if we have our actual user interface of our image pop-up or not. So let's run it, and I'm gonna click any of these images, so you can see that it's working really fine, but it will not work if I click on this cross button. This is the 2 lines of code. So now let's go and write code for that cross button. Alright, what we need to do is we need to first detect the click event on that close button. Alright, so now let's go and then close dot click. Alright, and inside this function, what we're gonna do, we're gonna hide this overlay if we click on this button. Alright, so in order to hide that, we need to first use the jQuery and then hide function. Inside here we need to write an element on which we want to be clicked. So we want this element, this element to be hidden. Alright, so if the close button is clicked, the overlay element will be hidden. Now let's save it and run it again. Now I'm gonna click on this image. This pop-up has been shown. Now I'm gonna click on this cross button. You can see that image has gone. I'm gonna click on this image, it's gone. Click on this image, it's gone. So I think that we are done with our task. I hope that you have learned a lot and liked this tutorial. This is the tutorial on JavaScript library Jquery. If you want to learn Jquery or in the process of learning Jquery, it's always the good practice to start doing small projects or small tasks. So this is the sign up form. In this tutorial I will show you how to confirm password based on some checks. So what it does is if you enter a password in this field, it will show an error message that password length should be at least 7 characters. Alright, so I will enter 7 characters, it will vanish away. In the second field, what I will do, I will have to match this password with the previous one. So I will enter a password, it will show an error message that please confirm your password unless the password doesn't match. Okay, if the password matches, then the submit button will be enabled and we can submit the form. So the purpose of this tutorial is to learn jQuery and learn the basics of it. So let's start. The IDE I'm using is the WebStorm, but you can use other IDEs as well, like Notepad++ or Sublime Text. So this is the empty project right now that I have created. You can create from file, new project, and create empty project. Alright. So first what I'll do, I will make a user interface as fast as I can, because this is not the tutorial of HTML and CSS. I hope that you already know HTML, CSS. So let's create HTML and CSS files for creating the user interface. Alright, so I will make new files index, okay, and I will create another file of style, okay, CSS file. So let's start and create some. I'll not explain what I'm doing in HTML because you must know HTML and CSS. So let's do it. First I will add a link to my CSS file. So that would be style sheet, okay, and href would be style, and type would be text CSS. Alright, so now come to the body, and I will create a form action with a method equals to post. Inside this form I need to create some div tags, alright, and label, username. Under this label I need to create the input ID equals to username, name equals to username, type equals to text. Okay, now let's copy and paste it for the password field. Alright, so this has to be the password, ID password, name password, and type has to be password as well. Alright, and after that I need to create a span tag for showing the error message. Okay, I will show and hide this error message with the help of jQuery. If the password is correct, then we will show this error. If the password is incorrect, then if the password is correct, then we will hide this, and password is incorrect, then we will show it. Okay, so password longer than 7 characters. Alright, so let's copy it and paste it again. Change the label from password to confirm password, and ID has to be confirm underscore password. Copy it, paste it, and type has to be password again. And for the message, it has to be please confirm your password. Alright, and below it I need to create a div tag and input type submit for the button. Alright, and value has to be submit, and ID has to be submit. Okay, so this is the user interface. So let's see what we have. Right now we need to write the CSS, but before that let's check it. So this is the form. We need to style it a bit and bring it at the center of our page. Okay. Now let's go and write some CSS for it. Okay, so font family to be sans serif. Font size has to be 10 pixels. Padding has to be 50 pixels. Background has to be 9 BCCFF. Okay. Max width has to be 400 pixels. Margin 100 pixels auto and 0. Okay. Now let's do it with the div tag. Margin 0, 0, 3, EM 0. Okay. Position has to be relative. Now for the label, to add font size 50 pixels. Now for the error messages, I need to select the span tag and display block. Font size equals to 15 pixels. Position has to be absolute. That we will do with the hard-coded paddings. So background has to be hash 2D2C87. Okay, the dark below, and color has to be white. Padding 10 pixels. Width 180 pixels. Left 105%, and top has to be 10 pixels. So we have the form, div, label, and span. So what we left with? We are left with input tags. Before that, let's check it. Okay, so now we need to add some more code a bit. So let's do it. Okay, so let's go here and add some code for input. Okay. Display block with 100%. Height has to be 20 pixels. Okay. Now for the input submit button, input, and I will submit, check if it is submit. Okay. For that I will add a background. Background has to be 2F558E. Okay. Now let's add some color to it. Hash DBDAE5. Okay. So font size has to be 2em. Height has to be 40 pixels. Let's see. Okay, so we are done with it. Now we need to set its width a bit smaller. So now let's go and do it like this one. So for that, so the problem was here that this is not the underscore but this is the hash. Okay, so now let's go and check it out. So you can see that our form is of a nice width. It is at the center, and these error messages are being shown that we will handle with our jQuery code. Okay, so we are done with our HTML and CSS. Now let's go and write some jQuery. Before that, we need to add the reference to the file, jQuery file. We can download the jQuery file as well, but we can also add the reference to jQuery file for online CDN. Okay, so for that we can add src, and the online file would be at code.jquery.com/jquery #1.11.0.min.js. Okay, its type would be JavaScript because it's a JavaScript library. Now we need to add a jQuery file, and that has to be app.js. Okay, before that, come here and add the reference to our app.js file. Okay, so script source app.js, its type would be JavaScript. So now we need to write some jQuery code for implementing the required functionality of our form submission. Alright, so for first what we need to do now, we need to hide those error messages when we load our form. So for hiding those messages, we will use these two tags. We know that these are the only tags, span tags, that contains the error messages. So for that we will select these tags, alright, and hide those. Okay, so if we reload it, we can see that there are no error messages. Alright, now what we need to do is we need to check this field first, that if its length is greater than or equal to 7, then don't show the error messages. If it is less than 7, then show the error message. Alright, so now let's go and do it. First we need to write some functions that will check if there is an event, key up event on that input text box, and then we need to write a function to check if the length of that text box is greater than equal to 7 or not. Alright, so now we need to check if event is occurred. So password dot key up event, and it will receive a function for showing that message. So first we need to add a function to check if its length is greater than equal to 7 or not. Is password valid, alright, and return password dot value dot length is greater than 6. Alright, now we need to write another function that is error message event. Alright, and in this function we need to check that if the password is valid, then show that error message. If the password is invalid, then if the password is valid, then hide it. If the password is invalid, then show it. Okay, so now if we check inside it, that if is password valid, then what we can do is we can hide this span tag. So how we can detect that this span tag should we hide or this span tag should we hide, because both the tags are not containing or having IDs or classes that we can use to hide and show these messages. So what we can do now, we can use another messages, another built-in function like next or previous, next child, previous child. Some of these functions can be used for this purpose. So for that we can hide this if this will refer to the current input text box that we are using. If we are entering keys on this text box, it will occur the key up event, and this will refer to this input tag. Alright, so now we will refer to the very next tag of this input tag. Okay, so now next dot height. Okay, now we can add an else event and then copy and paste it and show it. Alright, now what we need to do now, if we enter any key inside that text box, this key up event will occur and this will call this function. Okay, this will call this function, it will call this function to check if the password is valid. If the password is valid, then show that span error message. Now let's go and check it if it works or not. So now let's go, so you can see A, B, C. So it's not working. Now let's go and check where we are wrong. So value dot length is greater than 6, return, and now we can use this error message event, and it's checking this, and this dot next dot hide, and this dot next dot show. So it seems really fine. In order to check the errors, let's press F12 to see where is the error. Length is not a function. So, well, this is the error that we don't use brackets for the length. It's a property, not the function. Okay, so now let's go and check it again. Now let's write, so you can see the error message has been shown. Now let's write 7 characters. So you can see that the error messages have vanished away, so it's working really fine. Now I remove any error, so it's showing again. So it's working really fine. Now we need to check the confirm message, confirm password. Alright, so let's go and write a function here that is password matching. In here we can check return confirm password, that is the ID of second input text box, dot value equals to password dot value. Alright, it has to be ID as well. So this function will check if the confirm password is matching the actual password. If it's not equal to, then it will return false. Before that, we need to check the key up event for confirm password. Okay, so confirm password dot key up event, and it will call a function called match password. Alright, it has to be a $sign. Now let's write a function for match password. So match password, it will call this function to check if the password is matching or not. If it returns true, it means that the passwords are matching. If the passwords are matching, then we need to hide this error message. Alright, so if is password matching, then select the current next dot hide. Alright, and else this next dot show. Alright, so I think it's pretty much fine. Now let's see if it works. So let's write a password first. So let's write 7 characters. It has gone. Now let's write confirm. The message is showing. Now let's write the same characters as we write in the password input box. So it's gone. So 7. So you can see that the message is gone when we match the password of original and the confirm message password. Now it's working really fine. Now what we need to do, we need to enable and disable this button if any of these error messages are being shown. Alright, so for that, let's go and write another function called enable button. Alright, and in here I can enable and disable button with the help of a built-in jQuery property prop that we can use to get any attribute of any tag of HTML element. We can get the attribute of this tag. The attribute name is disabled, that we can set true or false. Alright, so let's first pick that button. Alright, so prop, and now let's select its attribute disabled, and now we can what we can do here is that we can write another function that will call both these functions. If both these functions return true, then that function should return true. Alright, so let's go ahead and is button enabled. So let's call this function is password valid and is password matching. Okay, so let's return it. So this is the function that we can use here. If this returns false, then disabled will be true. If this returns true, then disabled will be false. Okay, now we need to change the color of button in order to see if it's really working or not, because we are not changing the color of button, it will remain dark blue color. It will not look really good. Alright, so now we can check if is button enabled. Then we will first select the button with its ID and use the CSS function. Inside here we can background, and we can set its value to D3, D3, D3. Alright, and we can also set its color to black. Alright, if it's disabled, then it has to be black. Alright, and now let's copy and paste it and change it to F and change it to 2F558E. Alright, now we need to call this function in order to enable or disable button. We can call this function another selector, and we can call it right here as well. Alright, so enable button. Alright, so dot key up event, it has to be enabled as well. So I think it's done. And now let's see if it's working or not. Okay, so let's write password. So button is disabled. Alright, so it's working. Okay, so you can see that it's working really fine. Alright, now both error messages are being shown. The button is disabled and its color has been changed. The color of text as well and the background color of the button both have been changed. So I think this is all in this tutorial. I hope that you have liked it and you have learned many things inside jQuery, that how to use selectors, how to apply events on those selectors, and how to hide and show different things inside jQuery. It can be done with JavaScript as well, but it is pretty easy using jQuery. I will make a tutorial on the same thing on the form validation with the help of JavaScript framework AngularJS. That is a really good framework that really helps a lot for handling error detections or form validations. It is more easy than the jQuery as well. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and stay tuned. I'll be doing small projects and small tasks rather than explaining you individual things inside jQuery. I hope that you have liked it. Comment below if you have any questions. So thanks for watching this video.